Hi friends, welcome back to Codelligent. In the previous video, we saw lists collection which is available in Python. In this video, we will see another collection named Tuple. It is similar to list. Instead of square bracket, we use normal brackets to create the tuple. And again, similar to list, it can take multiple data types. It's not that the same data type element should be used. But the major difference comes here is list is a mutable collection, whereas tuples is an immutable collection. What do you mean by that? You cannot add, edit or remove items from this collection. This is an ordered list. So you will have index based retrieval of elements, but you using index, you can only read the elements, you cannot edit those elements, unlike in list. This collection also allows duplicate values, and the inbuilt methods we have very limited in this compared to list. Only two available ones are count and index. So let's see the usage of tuples in code, and let's try to understand why we need tuples when we already have a list. So now we are in IDE, Visual Studio Code, and let's try to create one simple tuple. So I'll say tup1 is equal to normal brackets instead of square brackets, and we can say 1 2 abc xyz. So it's a simple tuple which is created. Now I can print the tuple. I just have to say tup1 print, and let's execute this. And you can see the simple tuple has been created. You can access it using the index based element retrieval. I can say tup1 of 2, like how we were doing it for lists, and if I execute this, it will extract that particular element. But as we said, it is immutable. That means if I try to say tup1 of 2 and I try to assign some value to this, maybe def, which was very much possible in list, but here if we try to do that, you will see a type error. So which will say tuple object does not support item assignment. So once the tuple has been created, it is finalized. You cannot do that, and you don't have methods like append or remove to modify this tuple. So once the tuple is created, it is finalized. So there are some interesting facts which you need to know related to tuple. Like if you think, if I use normal parenthesis and say ABC, you might think I am creating a tuple with one element because we are using a bracket. But that is not the case in Python. When you say execute, you see it's coming as a plain string. So when you use any value in single brackets, it just tries to group it. That's it. It will not create a tuple internally. So if you really want to create a tuple with one element, then you have to mention a comma here so that it understands, okay, you are intending to create a tuple. So in this case, when you print, it will detect it as a tuple. So that is one big difference when it comes to list and tuple. In list, if you use square brackets and put one value, it will understand that is a list, whereas in tuple it will not understand. You have to mention a comma. Also, you don't have to use the brackets as well. So if I say ABC comma xyz without the brackets, still if you execute this, it will understand that, okay, you have created a tuple. Even though we didn't mention the brackets, internally it puts the bracket and it understands that, okay, this is a tuple. And the same slicing mechanism which we had for list will work with this as well. So for example, if I say 1 and 2 3, so this is my tuple, and I can create one more tuple by using the slicing operator. So and here I can say 1 2 3, and if I print tuple 1 and print tuple 2, so let's see how it works. you can see this is the original tuple and the sliced one has created a new tuple. So this slicing, how we explained in list, how we can use it with various combination of start and end index, same thing applies completely for tuple as well. And if you want to create another tuple, like for example, I have one more tuple with 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I want to join the two tuples, so I can say tuple 3 is equal to tuple 1 plus tuple 2. This is the same thing which we were doing with the list as well. So the same thing applies for tuple also. So now you can see tuple 3 is a combination of both. So this applies for tuple as well. Plus you can repeat the tuple as well. So that is allowed for list also. So we missed discussing that in the list. It is like, for example, if you have tuple 2 wherein 1, 2, 3, 4 elements are there, I can very much say this into 3. So now tuple 3 is equal to tuple 2 into 3. So it will not multiply each element with 3. That is not the case, but it will just repeat the elements of tuple 2 3 times. So now if you try to print tuple 3, you will see it's a repetition. 1, 2, 3, 4 has been repeated 3 times. So this is how you can create a new tuple with a repetition. And anytime if you want to convert a tuple to a list or a list to tuple, there are inbuilt methods which are available. So maybe once you have created a tuple, you cannot modify this. So usually what we do is we convert into list, we modify it and convert back to tuple. So how we do that is, like for example, this is the tuple 1 and I'll remove this. And now if I say ls1 is equal to list of tuple 1. So now I'm converting tuple into a list. So if I print both here, so I can print ls1 as well, and let's execute this. So you can see the same elements, but one is a tuple, one is a list. So the usage of this is like, for example, you have created the tuple and you have to modify it because of some reason. You can convert into a list, modify it, and then convert back to tuple. So how we can do that is like tuple 1 is this. Now I'll say ls1 of 2 is equal to something. And now I'll say tuple 1 is equal to tuple of ls1. So now if I execute this, you can see the tuple also has been modified. So this is how we modify a tuple, because tuple is actually immutable and you cannot modify it. But if you really want to modify because of some reason, then you can convert into a list, do the modification and convert it back to tuple. So that way you can modify it. So when it comes to inbuilt methods for tuple, unlike list, we don't have many methods. In list, we had a lot of methods using which we can play around. Whereas in tuple, we have very limited ones. The first one will be a count. So we have count method, which takes one argument wherein we want to search how many times this particular element has occurred in tuple. So for example, I say 1 and I will just print this output directly. So now if I execute, it says 1. So for example, if there was element of 1 again here and maybe somewhere here as well, so if it was occurring multiple times, then this will return me the count of that. So you can see now it is 3 because 1 exists 3 times. So for that you can use count. Apart from count, we have something called index. So that is like print tuple 1 dot index of, and it takes again one parameter. Like for example, if I give x, y, z, and let's see what happens. So you can see it gives 2. So that means it starts looking for x, y, z in this particular tuple and it returns me the index where it occurred first. 0, 1, 2. So this occurred first time here. So it will just return me that. So in case of 1, for example, if I remove this particular first element, so that 1 occurs 2 times, and if I say index of 1, then it will give me 2, because 0, 1, 2, this is the first time it occurred, and it will just ignore the next occurrence. It will give me only the first occurrence. Also, there is a concept of unpacking a tuple. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you have a tuple which has maybe 1, 2, 3, something like this in a tuple. So this is called packing. So that means you're using 3 elements and packing it into one tuple. And there is a mechanism of unpacking. So that is like if I have var1, var2, var3, and if I assign these in one shot with tuple 1. So now what it does is it unpacks this and assigns the first element into first variable, second element into second variable, third element into third variable. So if you want to verify that, you can just say print var1, var2, var3. So let's see what happens. So you can see 3 variables have been assigned with 3 element values. So this is called unpacking of tuples. Now you might be thinking why we need this tuple when we have a list. So usually in programming, you use tuple to save related values. For example, you are working on something with a UI wherein you want to save the resolution, width and height. So that is like how we get 1920 into 1080 kind of resolution. So you might be using like this 1920, and you will be using one more variable called height 1080. So instead of doing this, what you can do is you can create a tuple like resolution, and you can just assign 1920, 1080. This is how you can save related values as a collection. So here these 2 values which we have given are related because it's the width and height of the resolution. So it always makes sense when they exist in combination. So instead of assigning it to individual variables, we can create a tuple and assign it to that. And anytime you want to access, you can say resolution of 0 to get the width, resolution of 1 to get the height. Similar to this, you can use it for maybe for longitude and latitude. So if you are saving such kind of thing, you can use for that. Or maybe you can use even for like employee, wherein you want to combine like the employee ID, the name, maybe the department, and you just want to keep it as a collection. So once you create it, you won't be modifying it. So such kind of related values, you want to make it as a collection and keep it, then you can use tuple instead of list. And list is usually used for such kind of requirement wherein there is an evolution on that, like you might be adding, removing the values very frequently in that. In such kind of scenarios, you will be using your list. But in this kind of scenario wherein you want to group it and keep it and you might not be modifying it in future, such kind of requirement, you can use tuple. So hope the concept of tuple is clear and you know when to use tuple and when to use list. In further videos, we will see more collections which are available in Python. Thank you.